Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Shine Together. I am your host and founder, Pratibha Day. Today, you are tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination. We use courage on this platform to showcase our stories. We use hope to overcome, and we use imagination to resonate and understand with the stories that are being shared. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome Dr. JonPaul. You're amazing. I was so excited for this. I've been telling my coach and other people in our masterminds, I'm about to have them on. So I'm excited.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's always exciting to be invited to just be in community with like-minded / good people. So whenever I see a good ask come through, especially now things are changing rapidly for me. It's very much, there are things where I've had to be like, nope, can't do that. Sorry. And it's always really cool when I get someone that I actually enjoy following, reach out and say, hey, let's get together. So
yeah. So do you remember me reaching out to you on LinkedIn? Do you know that was the same person? I do. If they know.
I do. I remember. I mean, it's hard because again, my platform is growing and I have so many people, and I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I'm this, this big name. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Right.
To me, you are though.
Thank you.
I was telling my coach last night, I was like, you don't understand. I saw this person's video last year. It really helped me out. At a low point. That's how I was like, I have to reach out. And I'm always doing Googling and finding people. I don't care how big you are. I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to write you a note.
Do that.
Yeah. Because you never know. You never know when someone will respond. You have to take that chance. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even thinking about some of the friendships that I have, I remember one day randomly sending Francesca Ramsey an email and just being like, hey, I just want you to know that I genuinely love what you do. Would love to talk to you. And then she responded and I was like, oh, snap. She actually responded to me. And so I've done that a lot with, folks that I know who are big names, I mean, even Estelle, the singer Estelle, there have been times I've reached out to her to ask her to do stuff. And she's been like, oh, sure, no problem. And I'm like, whoa, it is cool because there are people, as much as they have celebrity or they have the engagement around them, they're very level-headed people and they love knowing that there are other good / level-headed people around them. So yeah, reach out to people. You never know what may happen from it.
Yeah, it's just like what you were telling me. Ooh, someone said fired. Thank you. One thing I learned is successful people actually want to bring others up. Good successful people want to help you. So they like it when people who aren't there yet ask them questions on how can I get to your level. But before we continue more, I do want to share your bio with the viewers because everyone may know you like how I know you. So Dr. Jonathan P. Higgins, also known as Dr. JonPaul, is an educator, national speaker, freelance journalist, thought leader, and media critic who examines the intersections of identity, gender, and race in entertainment. Named Business Equality Magazine's top 40 LGBTQ people under 40, their work has been featured on sites like Essence, Ebony, Complex, MTV News, Out Magazine, TEDx, and most recently, Paper Magazine. They have worked on several media inclusion projects with top brands like Fox, NFL, Apple, Disney, Instagram, and most recently, GLAAD. They are currently a development intern with Chernin, I apologize, Entertainment, and professor at University of Redlands. They hold a doctorate in educational justice and often write and lecture about what liberation means for Black, queer, non-binary people and how we can help them not just survive, but thrive. You can reach out to Dr. JonPaul at www.drjonpaul.com or also email them at john@drjonpaul.com. Bam!
Yeah, I know, right? That's a mouthful. And surprisingly, that's actually that's the short one.
Oh my God, please.
That's what's up.
Oh, thanks for tuning in. Someone said the video has phenomenal energy.
Oh,
we're aligned. And I have to say, we are a bit matching in all guests that I have. I always match my guests unintentionally. That's how you know the right people are coming on and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Hi, Gail. Thank you. So yes. I would like to start by firstly saying, are you happy with where you are in life right now? How do you feel?
So if you would have, that's such a beautiful question.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is actually a really good question. I love when people ask good, heartfelt questions.
Yeah, some real stuff.
Am I happy with where I am right now? So if I'll be transparent, if you would have asked me probably maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said no.
Wow.
I probably would have said there's so much more I want to do. There is so much more that I want to accomplish. And not only just for like me, right? I tell people that a lot of the work that I do is very selfless. It has nothing, like, as much as I love hearing myself talk, as much as I love being on the cover of things or being invited to stuff, I'm always thinking about myself maybe 10 years ago, where I was, scrolling through, God, I'm about to age myself. When I was scrolling through MySpace, or when I was scrolling through like the very, first years of Twitter, and not seeing conversations around stuff that affected me, right? Being Black, fat, queer, whatever. And so doing my work, I always kind of do my work with that lens of like, where was I 10 years ago and who am I doing it for? But as of recently, and this is the thing that I think I've learned in my journey, is that your life can change in a day. Like,
Yes.
you can wake up on Thursday saying, I hate everything, and then get an email on Friday, or get an opportunity on Friday, or get or have someone reach out to you. And you never know how that opportunity is going to change your life. And so I think for me right now, when you ask me, am I happy with my life? I think I have manifested and worked, because I think that's another thing we need to talk about.
Right?
People love to manifest, but people ain't here to work, girl. And I work, okay. But I think I've manifested the life that I've wanted to have.
Yeah.
I'm driving the car I want to drive. I'm in love with the person I want to love. I don't necessarily live where I'm happy to live, but I live in a place that I can afford. I got a parking spot. Like, there are things that I have to count my blessings. And I always think about that, right? I always share the story of like, and I'm going to talk more about this and something else that I'm working on. But I always tell people I used to have a car back in like my college years. I had a 1991 Honda Civic, and it was a cute car, but the gag was when it would rain, my car would flood. Meaning like it would literally flood. It didn't have any heat. It didn't have AC. And now, I drive a car that's nice. I'm not going to say what kind it is, but it's nice.
Okay.
And when I open my garage door, sometimes I'm like, girl, like, remember when you didn't have AC? Remember when you didn't have no, like, look what you drive, girl. Like, it's so yes, like I can literally say from my heart that I am genuinely happy with where I am. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I'm happy with where I'm going. Like, I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't see. Like, it's like, it may suck right now, but girl, like, you gonna get there. And when you get there, it's gonna be magical. So I that's where I'm at. I'm really happy with where I am and where I'm going.
You were saying everything about like where I am in life as well. Like you mentioned, tomorrow something could change. So things are changing, right? Especially in this pandemic. And I'm happy with the now. And I have to remember to be present in the now. I don't know about tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
You live for today, regarding finances, spiritual, emotional. Like, I don't know about tomorrow, but I know I'll be okay. Like, to have that mindset that you're going to be okay, that you're supported by the universe, etc. And as for car, I used to have a car that used to break down in the middle of the road.
Oh,
so during college years. So I remember. But I think one thing that you said beautifully is that, that you're embracing what you have and you're excited about where you're going. Because my mentor, Les Brown, he always says to stay enthusiastic. Even if you don't got $1 in your pocket, you have you have nothing going for you, to stay enthusiastic in those tough times as well. So I know, better your story from your TEDx talk. Do you want to talk a bit about, your background and the challenges that you had to be the person you are today?
Yeah. Oh, baby. I think the biggest thing is I grew up in a household where I genuinely, so I always have to kind of preface this because I don't ever want people to think like, oh, John is out there, ragging on their mom.
Yeah.
My mom was a single parent. She was raising 2 Black kids, and, I would say literally in one of the worst areas of the Inland Empire. I used to live in San Bernardino. There's a lot of history here that a lot of people don't talk about. And so watching my mom try to raise me and my brother and us doing the best that she could, right? For years, I held that against her. And then as I got older and I got into therapy and I started processing out where a lot of my frustrations with life came from, it was like, oh, my mom was caught up in the system of oppression. Okay, I get it. And I think the one thing I had to do, I used to be I would say this, I used to harbor a lot of resentment and anger towards not only just family members, but the world. And then as I got older, I started to understand, oh, that's why that person acted this way. That's why that person said that. That's why this person, they saw something in me or they saw a light in me and they didn't know what to do with it. So they tried to put it out, right? I think that's the thing that I feel like with my whole entire brand, right? I always tell people, if you don't get anything from the stuff that I say, or if you don't get anything from, my talks or my podcast or, the articles that I write, I think the biggest thing to always remember is that there are often a lot of hurt people out there who don't know they don't know what to do with that hurt, right? And I think for me, like I said, with the help of therapy, and I know I have to say that therapy is expensive and it's not accessible to everybody. And I wish it was. I've been able to work with my therapist to take a lot of the hurt in life that I had. And when I say hurt in life, the broken relationship I had with my father, the moments that I felt fat and people made fun of me and still make fun of me. Chad, I got a message this morning. Somebody was like, shut your fat ass up. And I'm like, those moments come, daily for me. And I have to take those moments of hurt and I have to say, how can I use that to be productive? Because it's reductive if I sit in it. And so, I try not to come across as preachy in my work, but I often like to tell people that we live in a system, and I told you this before we started, we live in a system where oppression in itself is meant to break people down. It is meant to eradicate people, whether it be eradicate them in physical form or eradicate them mentally, in terms of being their best or doing their best. And so I've taken that, I think, from my journey, right? From all of the moments in my life. And, one day when I get to sit down and write that memoir, because again, my hands are all over the place right now, child. And I would love to write a memoir, but I know it's not going to happen this year. When I sit down and I write that memoir and I tell those stories about what I've been through or what I've experienced, I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my whole entire life, in my young years of being 36, I think what I have learned is to really recognize that there are a lot of people who are genuinely taking their hurt and trying to pass it off onto you, because that is it's what works, right? It feels first. And I'll say that, like, for years as somebody, before I processed out what that was, I don't know why it feels good to hurt other people, right? And I don't know where that comes from, because for years I used to be that person that thought it was like, I feel better than now. I feel good that I was able to ruin your day. And I don't know where that comes from, but now I don't move in that way, right? Like, I move in a way of empathy. I move in a space of grace. I move in a space of, I've had people, like, I remember, I'll never forget this. I remember one day, I was sitting in Starbucks line trying to get a coffee, and the lady came on, and I could hear the frazzle in her voice. She was just frazzled. And, I could tell, maybe, I don't know if it was they didn't have enough people or they ran out of a product or what happened. And I just remember sitting there and, I was like, girl, it's no big deal. I was like, I'm gonna get my drink whenever I get it. I'm gonna get it, And if for me, it was like, if I'm in a rush, I'm gonna leave, right? And when I got to the window, she gave me my drink and she gave me my treat, and she said, it's on me. And I was like, what? She was like, your energy and how nice you were to me has literally changed my entire day. Wow. And I said, that's for me, that's when it clicked. And I said, why would you want to, like, why do we thrive off of being nasty to one another? And so I think that's the thing. I've taken every nasty moment in my life and I've utilized that as kind of like a step. And I've gotten to the top of those steps and I've looked down on those nasty moments and I said, watch me climb even higher. And I think that's where I'm at. When you ask me that first question, are you happy with where you are? Yes, I'm finally getting to the top of that hill where I'm looking down on all those nasty moments that people tried to put off on me. and I'm staring down at them and I'm saying, watch me rise, you know? So
I know you want to say a few things other than watch me rise, two little curse
look,
words.
well, there are some few choice words I have for people. However, you know, there's so much power in not giving people that power. You know what I mean? So
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your energy is beautiful, and I'm a calm person as well. That's an event that may have happened to me as well, where I, you know, the person felt like I deserved that because of my energy.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it really sounds like everything you're saying, especially regarding the message this morning, the messages you may get. So you open them not knowing, there's no preview for Instagram, like not knowing what it's going to say. You're opening it with thinking you just don't know. So do you feel like, because everything you're saying, I feel like it's like a fight. Like you're still fighting on a daily basis, but you're doing these productive things to put your content out there, put out, you know, who you are and to bring change to the world. But do you ever get tired, like, you know, where you want to give up?
Well, I'd be lying to say no. You know, I would be clearly lying to you if I told you there weren't times that I've emailed I've messaged my manager or I've messaged my assistants and said, I'm wrapping this shit up. I'm out of here. But I think there's something to be said, you know, and I've said this in very different iterations. And I always think about this when people ask me this, like, I get asked this question a lot, like, how do you wake up every day and say, I'm still going to do what I've been put on this earth to do, right? And whatever context that be. And I think for me, the biggest thing is I always like to tell people, you know, I had a moment a few years ago where something happened to me and I was laying in bed and I was crying about it and I was really, really upset that it had happened. And then, you know, a couple of days went by and I was doing some work and I was, you know, putting something together and I thought about, you know, the legacy of, you know, MLK. I thought of the legacy of Malcolm X. I thought about the legacy of Marsha P. Johnson. I thought about the legacy of all these individuals who have been targeted for doing what I believe is good work. And I thought to myself, I said, you know, if they came for them, what makes you think that they're not going to come for you? And that's where it hit me that I was like, oh, snap, right? If I wasn't doing anything that was shaking the industry, right, or that was shaking the system, then they wouldn't come after me. Obviously, these people left this legacy behind, and we remember them for the good work that they did because they ultimately were starting to chip away at the they were chipping away at this wall that was being built. And I say that knowingly, knowing what the wall means and what it symbolizes and what it's become in the last few years, right? So I say all of this to say that I think it is important for folks and individuals to note that when you feel like there's a system or an energy or something is quote unquote after you or up against you, that is ultimately when you start to, it's important to step back and understand why, right? It's important for you to understand and know that you are literally doing what legions of other people have done. And it's just, it's these systems are fragile. Right? These systems are fragile. And so they always fight back to stay alive. And I think that that's the thing I'm understanding, right? When someone comes after me for being vocal about whiteness or white supremacy or about sexism or about, you know, homophobia or transphobia or whatever, I know it's because that system is fragile and it's doing whatever that it can to stay alive. Right? And I think that's the thing that makes me wake up every day going, you've got a legion of people behind you. I always tell people, you know, I get access a lot, especially these days. I'm in rooms and people are like, you know, so tell me what your log line is, because I don't know how much you know about entertainment, but there's a log line for the writer. And then usually there's a log line for what you're writing. Right. And then people will say, tell me a little bit about what your log line is. And I always tell people my log line has been, you know, I am literally I'm the stories that my ancestors didn't get to finish.
Wow.
And I always say that, like, if, you know, I also think about, you know, I forget what her name is. I can see her face, but I can't think of her name. She hated Trump, has been very vocal about Trump. Maxine Waters has said this, and then I'll shut up. Maxine Waters once said, if you come for me, you better not miss, you know, you better not miss. And that's the thing I wake up with every single day. Even on my hardest days, I think about it. If you're going to come after me, bitch, you better not miss. You better not miss, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm coming back even harder. And that is the thing that I literally move with every single day. That is what keeps me going.
Mm-hmm. Your work ethic must be incredible. How long did it take for you to get into a routine of, this work ethic?
Oh, girl, child. I ain't got no routine. I just be throwing stuff at the wall and pray a stick. No, my routine. So I have genuinely the routine and the ethic and everything. It kind of has built itself. I've had to find a rhythm, and then I've had to listen to myself, and I've really had to listen to my mind. There are days where I'm just like even this past Tuesday, I was working on something, and it was like 3 p.m. and I was like, shit, I still have a lot of stuff to do. And I was like, it ain't gonna get done today. Like I have genuinely had to tell myself, like I've had to listen to myself, but I think it has taken me years to get to this place where I'm able to balance all that I balance. I am everywhere. I will say that, I'm on everybody's network in some way, some capacity. If it's not Clad, if it's not iHeart, if it's not, a meeting with an exec, if it's not a general, if it's not me writing, if it's not me, you're freelancing, like I'm literally everywhere. And I think the biggest thing for me is to just wake up every day saying, do as much as you can until you feel like you can't anymore. And that's it. That's how I balance it all.
Wow. You know what I like about you is how truthful you are in your journey, even in your posts. So I know recently I saw a post of yours that you were suicidal not too long ago, and then your weight journey. So, I was told by a mentor to not state the things I'm going through as I'm going through them, because then people look at you as weak. Like they look at you as if you're a coach, etc., that, oh, they're going through their own things. How can they help you? You know what I mean? Like, how can a coach help me if, they're posting that they just went through this, etc.? What are your thoughts on that? Like you being so vulnerable, do you feel like it affects your reputation, or like, is that all just whatever you want it to be?
Well, so I will say this. I think what your coach is speaking to, and this is something I've had to like really process and really understand how to navigate, is respectability politics. I think that there is underneath. I understand I understand what your coach is saying. And I get it. And I think it's important to understand that, yes, you don't want to be the brand that's always talking about what you're going through, right? But I think there's a balance for me, right? I tell people there's a balance. You'll find more joy in my post than you will about me talking about how terrible something is. You will find that I will take something terrible and I will turn it into a joke, right? I will flip it to where people have literally retweeted me saying, oh my God, this is so terrible, but you hit the nail right on the head, right? And I think that that's the thing. It is really genuinely a talent to be able to speak your truth in a way that other people can digest. And I don't feel like I've totally mastered it, but I have definitely been working at it. And what I would say to anybody who thinks that, I think that for me personally, I think that's one of the problems with social media. And I have spoken about it both on record and off the record, that I think social media in a way has glorified this idea that everything is perfect for people, right? Especially on Instagram, right? You get on Instagram and you see these white women running throughout the fields and frolicking like they ain't got nothing to worry about. And it's like, I know you in that, sis. Like, I know you. I just read an article that you, like, I mean, no shade, love Erica Jane, but I think Erica Jane is another great example of that, right? Like this whole notion of this woman built a whole career and even wrote a song saying it's expensive to be me, right? And then turn around, you find out that she was stealing money. Her and her, her husband, I don't want to say her, I'll say her husband was stealing money from people who were sick. So I'm saying all of this to say, like, I think it's important to note this, that a lot of what you see is literally curated. And I have to remind people that when they hear or when they see Dr. JonPaul, I want people to know that nothing about what I'm posting is curated. I want them to see the wins, but I also want them to see the struggle of what it takes to get to the wins. Because for me to tell you that it was easy for me to land the opportunity that I'll be announcing in a couple of weeks is a lie. For me to say that, getting this opportunity to write for the place, I have a big article coming out tomorrow, to say I got to that place to be able to write that article. And it just took me it took me a little bit of time. No, it was hard work. It was pinging people, it was relationships, there's a lot of stuff I had to do. And so I genuinely just want people to know, like, I don't think I think showing, so I'll say this, I think when people start talking about weakness and how we show weakness, especially when we're talking about weakness from POC to POC, whether it be Black people to Latinx people or Latinx to Black or Black to Black, whatever, I always come back to the root of slavery. And I know people are like, oh God, here Dr. JonPaul goes again, but I have to talk through this, because in my mind, if you really get to the root of slavery, right, it was this notion of, I'm going to beat the shit out of you and you still need to keep going, right? I'm going to treat you unfairly and you still have to keep being productive. I'm going to treat you as less than me and you still have to do what I need you to do. It always comes back to that regardless. And we've all in some way, shape or form been affected by slavery. So when you start having POC tell another POC, don't show your emotions because that's a sign of weakness. It's rooted in that construct of slavery that we've all inherently been affected by. So I can't me opening up and saying fucking sucked that I didn't get that job, or it hurt my feelings that, someone interviewed me and passed me up to go with someone else. It's not me being weak. It's me ultimately showing you that I'm human, that it does suck to be picked last for a team, right? When you remember what it was like being in kickball in 6th grade and being passed over. Like, everybody has had that experience when you weren't the popular person, right?
Yeah, I was not. I was the fat girl. I was the fat girl.
I was the fat gay kid in school.
I got picked last. When they choose teams, I never got picked.
All the time. And so I say that to say, like, it is okay. I personally believe that it's okay. And you will be surprised. Like, I always tell people, I don't have 19.2 thousand followers on Twitter for no reason. I have
well, damn, I didn't know. I don't have it.
I have 19 and trust me, it's not easy to manage having such a visible presence in the world in general. But I will say, that's people following you because something you said sticks and resonates with them. It's something that you're doing that is speaking to them. And so I personally can't speak for other people, but I tell people, when you get Dr. JonPaul, you're going to get all of it. And if you don't, then simply don't follow me. If you don't, I always tell people, I may not be your cup of tea, but drink some water. You'll be all right. You don't need to follow me. That's like me going to a Taylor Swift concert and then yelling and screaming the whole entire concert that I hate her. Why would I do that?
It reminds me of the Kanye moment.
Right. Why would I do that? So that's my thing. Be who you are, share your truth, and people who it resonates with, let it resonate. And if it doesn't, then I'm just not for you. That's okay.
I like that. I do want to know more about how Dr. JonPaul came about, your title.
The title. So it kind of, so it's a twofold thing. DJP as a brand, but DJP as an actual doctor. And so this was the thing. I used to work in higher ed. A lot of people don't know. Some people know this, some people don't.
I know.
I worked in higher ed for a long time. And I just kind of remember having a coworker / a couple of people in the world of higher ed, not necessarily take me seriously because of the things that I was thinking / doing in my work. And I eventually got to this place where I had a meeting with someone, and we were talking about inclusion as a global concept. I was on a I forget what it was called. It was basically an equity and inclusion commission that was created at the institution I was at. I was meeting with someone and we were talking about inclusion, and I was talking about queer students, specifically Black queer students, and the experience they were having living on campus. And the inclusion officer looked at me and was like, well, I don't see why that's a problem, because everybody has the same opportunities and the same access in higher ed. Like, they all have, like, they literally told me that, and I'm going, one, how the hell are you an inclusion and equity officer if you believe that? But two, have you done the research, or have you been looking at anything that has been happening? And mind you, I was in higher ed right at the height of what happened with Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin, like I literally had just started working in higher ed right around the time that Trayvon Martin was murdered. And so there was an interesting energy that was starting to happen in all of the conversations I was having, not only from the professional side, but also with working with students. So I say all of that to say that having that person tell me that and already being in the mind that I wanted a doctorate degree was the perfect timing. So in 2011, I applied, I started 2012, and I made it my mission from 2012 to 2015 to get a doctorate that did the research that literally examined the experiences of queer students of color in higher education. Got my doctorate in 2015. Really still had a passion for media and entertainment. It wasn't a huge passion, but I knew it was there. I was watching movies. I was utilizing my work. I was having conversations with students about, movies like Moonlight and having conversations with students.
I love it. I love that movie.
Right. I was having these conversations, right? What does it mean for, for us to see ourselves in TV and film? And ultimately just kind of started building this kind of following online where I was writing articles for like The Root, and I was writing articles for Essence, and I was writing articles for Blavity. And it just kind of like started moving. Like people started being like, oh, Dr. Higgins has something to say. And so when my manager came and approached me, she was like, "Ooh, girl, you need to brand that." I was like, "Oh, okay." So DoctorJonPaul was born. JonPaul was a nickname that everybody had always called me. All my friends, family, everybody knows me as JP or JonPaul, right? And so I said, well, why not make it a brand? And so I LLC DoctorJonPaul, started freelance writing, was being asked to be on panels, was going to events. People started seeing me as, oh, he's an inclusion expert. So I was starting to get commissioned to do inclusion things. And then 2018, Apple reached out to me and I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. So it literally was kind of, I won't say DoctorJonPaul was born overnight because it wasn't. But what I will say is that I think by just kind of leaning into the things that I was passionate about and knowing that one day and this is my theory too, like I always say the right people will hear me, the right people will see me, the right people will want to work with me. That is literally how I move every single day. And that's what's happened. It has opened doors for me that I have genuinely never thought would be opened. It has gotten me on calls and on emails and in rooms. Like, I mean, even just the thing I did with Fox, like that blew me away to think that somebody at Fox knew me, passed my name down and said, hey, get them here. And, in June, I got to do something for Pride Month for them. Even when the NFL reached out to me last year, it was crazy to me to think that somebody from the NFL knew me and was like, we need to get them here to talk about X, Y, and Z. Right. So that's just kind of what it is. I think it's just leaning into my passions has really just kind of created this whole manifestation of opportunities and being able to say I'm doing exactly what I love to do in this moment.
And I want to add, because I feel that you being at that level, with your degree really catapulted all the success. Do you feel that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Otherwise, they may not look at you. They may overlook you because of who you are.
And I think that's the thing about white supremacy, right? So white supremacy is one of those things that, we don't listen, we don't follow, we don't subscribe to people unless they have things behind their name. And it's hard because, as much as I want to say, like, take me and take what I have to say seriously, right? People didn't really start listening to me until they saw the Apple moniker behind my name, until they saw the NFL moniker behind my name, until they saw, all of these large brands, supporting what I had to say or bringing me in. And I know that there is some element of elitism. And I know there are a lot of activists and a lot of people who, I'll just say rightly, they don't fuck with me because they think, oh, he's about capitalism, or they're about capitalism and they're about this, and they're about working with companies that have not traditionally done Black or queer people wrong. Or there are reasons why there are activists out there who just don't like DoctorJonPaul, and that's okay. But I will say this, that if we all live in this world that everything is terrible, everything is awful, everybody is doing awful things, how do we make change, right? If I was to tell somebody over at Apple, y'all are capitalist, y'all are elitist, I want nothing to do with y'all, then how do I get in the room to actually get people to think about this inclusion, social justice thing that they just released, right?
That's right.
Like, how do I tell people over at the NFL the way you treated this Black person is hella problematic, and this is why Black people don't fuck with you, right? Like, if I'm not in the room, how do I change it? And so my thing becomes this: one, if you want to do the work and you are truly indebted to doing the work, and a lot of companies aren't, I will say that upfrontly, they are truly not up to doing the work they say they want to do, but there are companies that are. If you want to do the work, email me. But I also say on the other end too, let's keep these conversations going. But also, 3, I gotta eat. I don't see you cut me a check $2,000 to make sure that my car note and my rent is paid. So at the end of the day, I always tell people, make sure that opinion comes with a check. If you got an opinion about what I'm doing, make sure that opinion comes with a $sign.
I want you to make t-shirts like that.
Baby, I wish I could.
You thought about it?
I've thought about a lot of stuff. One day I will. One day I will start putting stuff up.
Yeah,
but I will say,
you can have your shop. You know,
baby.
You have your shop on Instagram. Click the button. People could see all your quotes and everything.
I literally live on this idea of like, I was on my Peloton earlier today. And like I said, I had somebody retweet me earlier and call me obese. And I thought to myself, I was like, the next person that tweets me and calls me fat, I'm going to tell them, pay for me a gym membership and pay for me a trainer. And then we can talk. Like, make sure your opinion comes with a $sign.
Yeah. A prior guest of mine recently this week was Dr. Avishkar Sabharwal, and he is a professional in decoding obesity. And we talked about how that's a disease and how it's a myth that, it's because they're lazy and they don't want to lose weight. And we discussed that whole conversation about how some people just cannot, and they need surgery and they need extra help. Yeah. So that was a whole nother conversation, but it's just a shame, I feel like, that you're receiving those comments, but it's also because you're so known as well. Because if you weren't speaking up, then no one would be contacting, because I don't receive, these negative DMs or anything about what I'm doing, because I talk about rape, abortion, all different topics people talk about here. But I've never received any hate. So it's like, okay, I'm not big enough yet. Like, is that what it is? So,
and it will come. And I say this lovingly, I think about, I'm really good friends with Jamila Jamil, and we talk about this stuff a lot. She's experienced a lot of hate. And we talk daily about, what it's like to kind of navigate trolls. And I think that like I said, there are a lot of hateful people in this country. There are a lot of hateful people in this world. And I think, like I said, when you have a light and you're doing something with that light, there's going to always be someone who wants to put that light out because it's too bright, right? It's too bright. Nobody knows what to do. I'll say this: in 2019, I had a company reach, I was working with a company, and one of the execs was like, we don't know what to do with you. We don't know how to like, and I was like, good, I'm grateful when people don't know how to process me. Oh, you're too much. We don't know how to process you. Good, because that means I'm not for you. And I think that that's the thing. Like, there are going to be people who don't know what to do with your content. People who are going to come for it. People are going to try to shut it down. People are going to try to get you canceled. Just keep working.
John, you're actually, that all did actually happen to me, but I guess I don't perceive it in that way where it's so often. But where people haven't had me on their show because it's too raw of a story, like regarding my abortion and things that I went through. People don't want to hear about like incest and different things. It's like too raw. You know what I mean? It's not a pleasure. It's not a mainstream pleasurable topic, because I talk about the real stuff that people don't want to hear. That can be triggering in their own traumas, but that's what Chai Together is about. It's talk about real stories, because this is real life. It's like not shoving things under a rug, especially in our South Asian community, because I know you're big on, your Black community. And for me, it's like, I like to represent Indian people because I'm Indian myself. And people don't want to, we're told to hush. Like when I had my abortion, I was told to not be vocal about it and to act like it never happened and keep moving. So I'm not about that life. So like you said, so many wonderful things. And I do want to publicly say that also Netflix is coming up for you. So tell us a bit about that.
So that's the other part of my brand. I like to tell people that it's not always just, me trying to take down the man, quote unquote, because I am, honey. I'm always talking about white supremacy in some context, or systems of oppression, yada yada yada. But I do like to have fun, and contrary to popular belief, I do like to enjoy myself and have fun. And so when I was approached to do Nailed It, which is so cool because I actually can talk about it now. I've sat on it for a year. Gotta love a good NDA. When I was approached to do it, I was kind of like, I don't know how that aligns on my brand. It doesn't. And then, my manager was like, girl, just go do it and have fun. Like, you like to bake, you enjoy being in front of the camera when you're your authentic self. Like, just go and do it and have fun. And I said, okay, I will. And so I went and did it, and made the cut. I'm on season 6, episode 3. It premieres on the 15th. And what's really cool is, I'll say this. So what's really cool is the people over at Netflix and the people over at Nailed It, Magical Elves is the production company, and they were absolutely amazing. When I tell you, if they were to call me tomorrow and say, hey, do you want to do something else with us? I'd say yes in a heartbeat. They were fantastic to work with. But what I will say is what was really cool about it was my episode actually aligned with the stuff that I'm doing. So I can't give too much away, but what I will say is that the episode's theme is a tribute to people who have done civil rights work. And so as much as it is a Nailed It and I'm baking a cake, right? Both of the challenges are definitely a tribute to the people who have come before me. So again, the universe, the stars will always align. And I'm just grateful. Like I said, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. And shout out to Netflix, shout out to Nicole Byers for being absolutely amazing during the time that we were filming. It was a great time. I really had a good time.
Look at you, like blushing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
I know. Wow, I can only imagine. But briefly before we got on the live, you were saying that regarding acting, that you're not big for big time shows. But you would do like appearances, is that right?
So yeah, I mean, reality TV, if it's done in the right context, I would love to, be involved in different contexts and things. And writing television shows and doing, maybe one day writing a play. Like I'm writing a feature right now. Like there are all of these things that I enjoy doing. Being an actor is not one of them. I have tried acting when I was in high school. I tried acting when I was in college, and it's just, sometimes you just got to know. I always say Beyonce is great at almost everything but acting. And sometimes you just have to know when you're not good at something. I am not good at acting. You will never catch me in a role doing anything. I have no interest. It's not something that I believe to be my ministry. So, that's it. It's not for me.
But all the writing that you do, were you always as driven to write? Like it naturally just happens, the process, or is it difficult for you as well?
Oh, girl. Yes, both. I say both and. So when I was in college, I would even say before college, when I was a kid, I often wrote music and I wrote stories to get away from the life that I had. And I say that in the sense of like, I always wrote about like running away, or I always wrote about getting away from the things that were like impacting me. And I feel like in a way, journalistic writing, especially features and long form and all of these other things, right? They are very complicated, and sometimes you're working with an editor who is even more complicated. Shout out to the editors who are good editors. I know who they are. Love them for being great editors. But what I will say is that I think, especially now that I'm in this mind where I'm writing, I've written 2 pilots. I'm currently writing a feature. I think it's really cool to be able to I don't know how many other writers will say this, but I know for me, I feel like my characters come to me and I meet them.
Wow.
And it's really nice to just like, as I'm building out the worlds and I'm beating stuff out. And I've talked to other folks like Stephen Canals and other writers who, write television. It's just so interesting to like meet these people and get to know them. And it's not like you're dreaming these people up. They genuinely, like for me, they come to me.
Wow.
I can see the character. I can see their energy. I can see their personality. I can really depict how they move and who and yes, they are inspired by people I know, but I genuinely think one of the most beautiful things about writing is when you finally get to a place in your writing and you're like, I know this person so well and I'm so happy for them, or I see their struggle and I can't wait for them to like become victorious in it. It's a very like, even just listening to Steven talk about like Pose, right? And him saying like, I'm really sad that I had to let go of Blanca. It's like when you are done with something and you walk away from it, it's like you're walking away from a friend.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I come to write, is I've just really looked at all my writing as I'm writing about friends. I'm writing about people who I've met, and I'm learning them, and I'm hoping to build out a world or journey for them that makes them very happy.
I find it to be a blessing that you're getting paid to do what you have a gift in. A lot of people, like, for example, like artistry, all forms of artistry, whether dancer, painter, actor, writer, it can be really difficult for the world to accept and believe that someone actually has a vision, or musicians like A.R. Rahman, music producers, that how do they get to a point where they're earning all this income because they need other people to believe in it? But it's like they have to just keep going and do so many writing pieces. And I'm sure you did so many drafts that never even left, like, your book, etc. I just feel like it's hard work of years and years. Like you said, you didn't become this person overnight. So do you feel like, what is your greater vision of yourself? Like, what would you like to leave behind as an impact? Is that your writing pieces, your appearances? Is it like DoctorJonPaul? Like, what would you want people to remember, like, after you're gone,
Yeah. So I used to, if you would have asked me this maybe a year or two ago, I would have probably said, I want people to know me as being, resilient and, coming. I've learned that those words are so rooted in what I like to call trauma. Like they're rooted in this notion of the world has done something to you, and all of the other jazzy things that we talk about in social justice, about what words mean and how they're used. I think the one thing that I would want, and I would say actually not even just one, I want multiple things. While I do not dream of labor, like I wish there was an opportunity or a way for me to be able to live my life the way I want to live it without feeling like I have to work every single day. I genuinely want to leave opportunities for other people behind to shine. I think that's my number one MO, my number one like dream. And I say that in the sense of like, I would love to know one day that like, kind of the way that like Walt Disney left behind Disneyland, or in the ways that Steve Jobs left behind Apple. I would love, and I know these are white individuals I'm naming, like thinking about the folks who are our living ancestors today, Lena Waithe, Stephen Canals, like, Coleman Domingo, like these are all individuals who have production companies that are ultimately they're locking in deals with these major networks to be able to bring Black and queer writers into spaces and giving them opportunities. And so I always say that I go, right now, yes, I'm writing and I'm trying to get into a writer's room, or I'm trying to get put on to a show, but I would love to one day be able to start a production company that says I work exclusively with trans Black, writers. And I want them, I teach them how to become showrunners, so that way they can get their stories told the way they want them to be told. Like that for me is my dream of not necessarily being like, I want to basically, I don't want it to come from like the white lens of like, I want to be a savior to them. That's not what I'm saying by any means. But I think for me, it's this idea of the each one teach one, and kind of the whole concept too of like, when you get a little, you give a little. And I even think about that in the way that I'm working in my system. Like, I think about my assistant being trans and how much I've been able to help them not only navigate this industry, but ultimately how I've been able to help them open doors that they want to open for themselves in their journey, right? And how to give them like, this is what you do, this is who you call, this is who you work with, like stay away from them because they're not good people. Like being able to help them know that they have someone in their corner that's going to help them find the success that they want. I looking for Black and queer agents to work with, looking for Black and queer, queer people in this industry work under. I'm just very intentional about the ways that I move now, and I'm hoping that one day my moves and my legacy will one day help someone else be able to make their own moves and create their own legacy, if that makes sense.
It will. It already is. And one thing I wanted to say was I wouldn't even perceive it as if, you're being a savior, because if you're pulling up more people of your ethnicity, you're not, I wouldn't perceive as, oh, like you're doing me a favor. I would just like, you're looking out for me. Because you know how our like Indian people looking out for Indian people, oh, you gave me a discount, kind of like that, but in a more serious way.
Yeah, no, baby, and shit, I'll take a discount too, especially on some chicken, honey. I'm always hungry, but I will say, like, I definitely I feel you on that more than you know. Like, I think we talk about gatekeeping a lot in entertainment, and you'll be surprised how many moments I've heard, oh, so and so did or said this about that other person, and I'm like, they Black, why would they do that? And then you go, okay, they want to be the only Black person in the room, they want to be the only Black person on the page, they want to be the only Black, but like there's a lot of that happens, right? You get into the room and you think someone's going to come for your plate, and so ultimately what do? You hold on to it harder. But I'm also that mindset of, if I have to eat at a table where I feel like someone's going to take something out of my mouth, then I don't want to be in that room. Like, it needs to be, I literally genuinely work from this place of, even if it's not for me, it's for somebody else, I can pass it down to them. It's not gonna kill me. I'm not gonna lose anything by passing that down to them. Or even saying, I'm gonna bring this person in. Like, I mean, a great example of this is like, I'm currently working on something with iHeartRadio, and I totally I totally had an opportunity to say, I'm gonna take all the light in this. I don't need to bring anybody in. I can work. It'll be all about me. And I tell my friend on the shoulder, I said, girl, you want to do this with me? And she was like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's do it. Right? Like, this for me, it's like, when I eat, you gonna eat too.
That's right.
And that's the thing, is like, we gonna eat together, we gonna laugh together, we gonna have a good time together, because I work hard so we both can win. It's not like, I tell people, what I do has nothing, it literally is not all about me. It is about making sure, like when Issa said, I root for everybody Black, I root for everybody Black, queer, fat, and gay. Like, I want us all to be able to not have to worry about where our next meal is coming from. I want us all to feel the liberation of Marsha P. when she threw that brick. Like, when she threw that brick, she threw it for all of us. And that's the energy I'm on. I'm literally on that.
You're the epitome of how they say, we eat like, when I get to the top, I'm bringing everyone with me. Like, I haven't come across someone who I've seen that's actually doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you live it out, what you say.
And you have to. Like, I tell people, I'm not one for optics. Like, I recognize optics are important. I know everybody's watching me. I know, my manager sometimes will say, girl, be careful, because you got a lot of eyes on you. And I know. But I definitely want people to know that what DoctorJonPaul is like, I hear a lot of influencers say this, but it's an ecosystem. And I think that's what I'm really trying, in my subtle ways of quote unquote coming up. I'm really trying to create an ecosystem that allows everyone to say, okay, DoctorJonPaul went to bat, DoctorJonPaul fought, DoctorJonPaul had to fight and went through the battle, so that way now I can have a seat at the table. And ultimately, the other thing is being able to have the tools to keep building other tables. Like, I think that's the thing that's so important to me right now, is like, I don't really just, I don't want to, the thing is that I don't need a seat at the table. Give me $200 so I can go to Staples and buy my own seat. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I need. I need to be able to have the means to be able to go buy what I need to buy to build what I need to build. Like, that's not where my mind is. It's like, I'm not trying to just get into a room to, I want to be in the room so I can be in the room. No, give me the money so I can go build my own room, sis. Like, give me the tools. That's all I need, is the tools. And I think that's the biggest thing, is really just wanting to make sure that other people know, like, it's not, when it becomes about you, then what's the point of the journey? What's the point of it? If it's just about you, glamorizing you, why? Because you can't take it with you when you leave. That's the thing I keep thinking about. When I leave this world and DoctorJonPaul, the LLC is not getting paid for no more, who is it for? I can't take it with me. So I'm in the mindset of, let's share. I find so much joy in knowing that when I eat, my girls eat. That's it.
Yeah, because you're in abundance mindset. People who are holding on, it's lack. Like it's in fear. It's
I'm not
fear-based
doing it.
thinking.
I'm not
And
doing it.
I wanted to ask you earlier, you mentioned the word resilient. So do you relate to that word? Like, do you call yourself as someone who's resilient, or have you shed that layer and moved on to like new vocabulary, basically?
Yeah, I do not use the word resilient. I use the word relentless.
Ooh, I like
And I think for me, some people would say resilient and relentless are kind of in the same vein. They might be,
yeah.
but I think resiliency is this idea that a lot of white people like to use to explain, oh, you're so resilient. You've gone through all these things and look where you are.
Mhm.
Whereas I've never had anybody say, John, you're relentless,
Wow,
and I
I
think
love that.
relentless is so cool because it's like, keep throwing it. You know what I mean? Keep throwing. You can
Wow.
throw rocks. It can rain, mudslides, shit. Lava can even
Wow.
come out of the mountain, and I am going to relentlessly get to the top of it
I'm
because
using
that's who
this.
I am.
I'm using this. I'm no
Mhm.
longer using resilient for
I'm not
myself.
resilient. I'm relentless. And that's the thing that's the thing that I think I don't want to say that's the secret. It's not the secret for me. I wish more people knew that being relentless is what gets you where you want to go. And it's not to
Mm,
say that everybody has the same journey. Like I think people glamorize, oh, I want to have 1 million followers and I want to have brand deals and I go, yes, that's cute, but I know for me, I know the other side of it. I know what it looks like.
mhm.
It's not as fun as I think people glamorize it to be. But
That's
what I
right.
will say is what's fun to me, what's cool to me is knowing that somewhere
No.
in this world, somewhere in the world of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, there's somebody who is following me and is saying, God damn, that, that John is doing that. I can do it too. Even if it
Mhm.
means going to their boss and saying, you know what? I quit because you don't respect me. I quit because
Fuck
you
yeah.
don't treat me, you're not paying me what I feel like I'm worth. I'm
Mhm.
more than this. I'm better than this, right? I want people to be able to look at me and say, John wanted better for themselves, so I should want better for me too. We deserve it.
Wow.
We all deserve a little bit better. And when you stop, like I think that's the thing, like what people are seeing from me is me saying, I want what I deserve. And I am going to do whatever I can to get it.
Wow.
That's what I deserve it.
That's
When
right.
I deserve that showrunner title. I deserve that EP title. I deserve that, I deserve that show being renewed. You
Mm.
know, I deserve that. And I think that I wish more people knew that they deserve so much more than what life is giving them. So that's how I move.
That's so beautiful. But I remember you did want to touch on the whole manifesting versus action because, you saying you deserve, but it's not that you're just verbalizing it and doing the affirmations, but you work hard every day.
Maybe.
Do you feel like, everyone has their own perceptions and opinions on manifestation, etc. But do you feel that it's necessary to work hard or like work smart? Do you want to touch on those kind of things briefly?
Yeah, work
Yeah.
hard and working smart, I think is really important. I think when you say hard work, I
Yeah.
think for me, the hard work is constantly showing up to do it.
Mm,
That's what I think hard work
I
is
like
when you're
that.
constantly showing up to do whatever you need to do, right? When you know, like, so for instance, I think hard work is, I always tell people writing is hard because
Mhm.
especially writing for like entertainment is hard because it's not just about what you see on the paper, right? It's about that person who gives you notes and the exec is saying this is what, because I always tell people everything comes down to $1. No matter how you slice, dice, cut it, try to, it always comes down to $1. And so obviously people are going to want to make what they know is going to sell, right? So
Mhm.
I think about that a lot. Like as I'm writing, I'm going like, I want my truth to be here, but I also have to be mindful that this has to sell because obviously
Mhm.
this is a business of money. Everything comes down to $1.
That's right.
But I think that the hard part too is when you get that note for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, and you have to keep rewriting and keep rewriting. I think about it from the
Mm.
perspective of the first pilot that I had that actually got to a semi-finalist round, or actually it was a finalist, and then I didn't get picked. But the finalist round, I
Yeah.
rewrote that script 23 times.
Oh my Lord.
Right. Like I had to go back to it 23 times. And so that's hard work, right? When you get to number 5 and you're like, shit, I'm done. I'm over this. I don't want to rewrite this again. Right. Like it's hard to come back to it and say, I know I have to make these notes. I have to change this. I have to redo it. Or when you're a writer and you get notes from an editor and that editor is saying this part of this story doesn't work, and you have to go back and you have to edit it, right? Sometimes I see the Google edits come through and I'm like, oh my God, 81 edits? Really?
Oh,
like, why? But you make the edits because you really want that story to get out into the world, right? And so I think that's what the hard work is. But what I'm also talking about in relation to, the hard work is, and working smarter is sometimes I think a lot of us, especially POC, are good for saying, I have to do this on my own. And no, you really don't. I'm one of those people that, I remember being in a meeting recently and hearing someone doing something and they were like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And I didn't really have any questions because they were kind of talking about something that I was semi-familiar with, but it wasn't like it wasn't in one of those places like I have a million questions for you. He was like, come on, like you can ask me anything. You can ask me anything. Please ask me a question. And I was like, okay, I'll ask a question. So how do I get a job?
Oh shit.
How do I get a job? Right? Like that's the working smart for me is like, I know you may not know, or you may not be able to hire me, but I'm sure somebody in your circle is looking for somebody, right?
That's right.
So I think that's the working smart piece is like, my mom would always say closed mouths don't get fed. And I'm a true believer in that. Now I work from this place of it may rub someone the wrong way to be like, oh, John was in that meeting asking for a job. That's ghetto. Because that's ghetto. Why would he do that? Why would they do? Because I want to work.
That's right.
That's why I asked. And I'm gonna tell you right now, all of the people that I idolize and I look up to, they didn't get to where they were at by not telling somebody else what they need or what they wanted. Because they will tell you, I didn't get here by myself. So that is the work smart for me. Work hard is constantly showing up to keep doing the work. But the working smart is telling people what you want and what you need and how you need it. But I always tell, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, you didn't get on here today because I didn't have a closed mouth. Like, I was like, hey, do you want to come on chat together?
Right. And that's the thing. You got to ask people. But I will say this, and lastly, one of the things I always like to tell people that I constantly think about is this idea of, how we get so caught up in being like, oh, I'm scared and I don't want people to know. Baby, please don't do that to yourself. Just speak up, ask for your help, do what you got to do, baby. It's people will help you. The right, like I said, the right people will help you if they see that your heart is in the right place. And that's my journey. I tell people all the time, I did not get here by myself. I got here by people saying, John is a cool person. John really is here to do the work. I want to work with them. Let's get them where they need to go or where they're hoping to go. So,
and you're supposed to ask for what you want. That's what I'm doing recently. It's like a specific job. It's like, I want this experience. I want it from my grad school. Like I want to do this work. And they ask what salary. I'm like, this is the salary that I'm looking for. You got to demand basically what you want, because if you don't want to lower yourself and then you get anything, from the world, you want to be very specific about what you want.
Yeah.
And whoever, like the person, if they did say, oh, that's ghetto, it's like, that's that perspective. But it's like, they're also not doing what you're doing. They're not getting the results that you're getting. So you're doing something right. And
I'll also say this too. Something that I have learned is I don't just pray for what I want, but I pray for what I need. That is the thing I've learned in my journey, is to not just pray for what I want. It's okay to say, I want this job. I want this opportunity. I want to be here. I want to meet this person. You can want all of that. But let me tell you, a lot of those opportunities are not things that you need. Like I said, I spent a whole period of my life praying for what I wanted and for what I hoped would be a good opportunity. Now I'm in this place of when I go to the altar, when I grab my Beyonce candle and I pray, I say, oh, you think I'm kidding? I have a Beyonce candle, child.
Oh my God.
When I grab my Beyonce candle and I pray to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yo, you're so funny.
I'm just kidding. I know it's super, people are probably going to cover me. It's sacrilegious. But when I pray, when I like genuinely, when I do pray to the universe and I ask the universe, please give me this opportunity, or please let this opportunity be a good opportunity for me.
Yeah.
I genuinely say, I'm praying for what I want, but I also am praying for what I need. And you'd be surprised how many opportunities will come my way, and then it'll pass me up, and then I'll go, I'm so glad I didn't get that opportunity because that's not what I needed. I may have wanted it, but it wasn't what I needed. And the opportunities that have happened for me are the opportunities that I've prayed for and knew that I needed, because they have nourished me in ways that other opportunities haven't. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there for folks.
No, I really like that. That is true. That is true. And, you know, even if there's certain people you look up to, like, for example, if I wanted certain people on the show and it's not coming through for me, it's because we may not align. I may not be able to vibe like this with them. They're not the right people. As much as I look up to them, I could do that from a distance, but it doesn't have to get closer than that. So I really like that thinking. I want to ask one last thing, and then I will let you go. I want to ask you, you know, earlier you were speaking about when you were leaving something behind, something opportunities for other people. Do you feel like you would do a coaching program or like an academy where you would do one-on-ones or Zoom calls and provide people with, you know, your coaching, your thinking, the tools that they need to learn how to get the opportunities like how you did, kind of like a blueprint? Have you thought of that or done that yet?
I haven't done it yet. I've had people ask me that. I'll be very transparent. I don't think I'm in a place. Time is very important, I think, to everybody. I think, you know, I already overextend myself in a lot of ways. And I know it's terrible. And people are like, yeah, you need to rest. And I'm like, I don't know what rest is. I don't know her. But I do rest. I'm not going to lie. I tell you, I do rest. But I will say that I think for me, being a coach for me right now is not necessarily where my heart is. And I'd be doing a lot of folks a disservice if I decided, or I said, oh, I want to be a coach. I want to help people get here. Do I want to start like, you know, a mentoring program like the Disruptors? I'm shouting out all the people who have helped me. Disruptors, or, you know, the Hillman grad program, or would I love to start something like, you know, some of the programs, you know, like Apple has for helping, you know, people in tech and all of that. I would love to start something like that. But am I in a place right now to do it? I don't think so, because I'm literally just starting kind of like to get my rings on what I'm doing. But I always do tell people, you know, if there's someone watching today and they're like, John, you know, I really have a question, or I would love to know more about how you started freelance writing, or how you got the deal, you know, how you got into Hillman grad, or how did you get into the Disruptors, or how did you get into, you know, the iHeart program? Like, if any of, like, there's a lot of things that I have done. How did you get the deal with GLAD, or how did you get the deal with Apple, or how did you get the deal with, you know, NFL? Like, if you're interested in, you know, learning how to speak, or if you're interested in writing, or if you're interested in, you know, becoming, like, basically how do you create a brand and create a buzz and a following. I'm always happy to sit down with people. You know, I always tell people the first 30 minutes is free. And then after that, I got to charge, honey, because it's a consultation. But overall, I'm in that mindset of, if you do have a question and you shoot me an email, john@drjonpaul.com, or you hit me up on social by using that, you know, at DoctorJonPaul, I am more than happy to give you, you know, a quick 2 lines of what I think might help you. So
because sometimes people don't know how to reach out to someone who is, you know, more successful than them. What's the right thing to say? A lot of people get caught up on that and don't even send an email, etc. You know, like what to say. So I think something like that can be really quick and brief. Like, hey, like, how do I approach this person who's in this kind of industry? What is your input? Something like that, right?
Yep.
I love it. I loved having you on today and listening to you and your shiny skin.
Oh gosh, it's probably oily, child. It's just probably oily. It's time for me to. I know. I'll do my whole facial situation tonight before I go to bed. But overall, thank you for having me. This was really, really fun, and I'm hopeful and happy that whatever light that I have, I've been able to give to others. So thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure to be here.
Wow, arigato. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.